Wieczorne żlecy są miasto szary. Sprechewskem mag nicht Brütversessen herverlochen. Wieczorne żlecy są miasto szary. Sprechewskem mag nicht Brütversessen herverlochen. You're analog to begin again.
Tweaked it.
Forever birthing babies, she is tended to by babies she is birthed. But so upon the termite queen, there is a coating of thick, sickly, sticky mucus, a shard of radiant eidolon of gleaming hot, translucent material, covering her body in throb. Mind you, at this point, the queen is just epically huge and massive, and bursting out babies at an astounding rate. The babies she has already made, tending to her massive corpus, which is coated in this translucence of dirt and birth and creative heat, which is coated in the translucence of dirt and birth and creative heat. Nobody knows what the termite queen knows about the one special baby she produces at some point, which is not known and possibly not knowable even by the termite queen herself. Special new baby is created by the termite queen and is doted upon as it enters the world underneath the earth by the babies which have already been created, delivered in the exact same way as they themselves had been. But this baby is a female, and she is special. And though the termite queen herself may not know immediately what she has done, the new female termite baby, she knows. The new female termite baby, she knows that she is special.
Female termite baby. She knows that she is special because she's the only sister to a million brothers. She ascends quietly above the surface of the earth. On the surface, above the warm and comfortable earth, she realizes that she's in the world and that she is good, and that the world she's in is good. A moment of promising wind will witness the newest queen and king fly and fly and fly to a special location which is known, if by anything, only to a whisper of the blood. The newest termite queen. She finds a spot which is known, if by anything, only to a whisper of the blood, and she lands descending beneath the earth. Never to be seen again.
Hello? Yes, hello? David? Oh my, David. Foster Wallace, is that you, David? Is that... It is you. I must be a simple fool, for I choose to believe that though my eyes and ears will deceive me, they will likely not do it at the exact same time. Dave, my old friend, it is so good to see you again.
I don't know how this could be, but that voice that I'm hearing, it sounds like the voice of the Wraith. The Wraith, a character I wrote in a book a long time ago, which leaves me wondering why I'm still the me that I used to be, and also how or why or what it means that the Wraith is here along with me.
Let me ask you a simple question. Why do you suppose are we here?
Well, I have to tell you that I was beginning to think that that was a question that I should be asking of you. Which is why I just did ask you, that is.
Psychotic human complexity reflexes and insane genetic dramas. It was all very simple. A thing which is born to be that which it is born to be.
A thing, you said, is born to be that which it is born.
Yes, is born to be that which it is born to be. Yes.
I see. Well, that certainly makes it much more clear.
Do you truly see? What exactly becomes clear? You might as well stop trying to figure it all out, David, and just capitalize on my presence, the Wraith's presence in this room, or dream, or whatever.
No, I have to tell you that I don't see. Nothing you are saying or doing is doing a job of clarification. And let me ask you something. Did you really mean to say prior to just now? When you were telling me about how things are born to be that which they are?
Tell me, David, please indulge my ignorance. What's wrong with gentilisms? What's wrong with prior to? What's wrong with subsequent to?
Well, I suppose I have trouble characterizing your question. Gentilism, it seems to me, is an entirely charitable way of characterizing them. They are, to me, they're like puff words, like saying utilize instead of use, which in 99 cases out of 100 is just stupid. Or individual instead of person. More syllables, more words, it's just more puffed up. Why should it be prior to instead of before? Everybody knows what before means. It's fewer syllables. And I think, given the Latin roots involved, that it should be posterior to, if you're going to be saying prior to. So if you're saying prior to or subsequent to, you are, in fact, in a very high-level way, messing up grammatically speaking. But would you ever want to say posterior to? No. So you don't say prior to. But you'll notice that this is what happens when you begin to pay attention. You start to notice all of these people saying at this time instead of now. And you think to yourself, why did this person just force me to waste 1/3 of a second of my lifetime parsing at this time instead of just saying now to me? And you begin to be bugged. But in this way, you become more attentive in your own work, and you don't give in to all the evil that's all around.
An agent of light and goodness, did you say? Nothing which has happened before right now matters. Even what I just said.
Pardon me, I'm looking around here for a taxi I can hail. Let me know if you see one. To the library, I'll say, and step on it.
Oh, yes, of course, that famous sense of humor. We are asking about things which you choose not to remember. This is you using humor to deflect the questions you would ask of yourself.
And let me ask you a question. Do you ever stop to consider that you, the Wraith, are just a character that I created in a book a long time ago?
Yes, I am but a character that you have created. But it seems I am not the only one in this predicament. You and I both are but characters you have deigned to create.
Let me tell you something. The only thing that I know is that I am the guilty one in the sense of leading my life, in the sense of writing that book.
Of creating a universe which can possess a thing like me.
Indeed, it would seem that I am guilty of creating a universe which possesses a thing like you, a very annoying Wraith.
At least we can say that you did it for a good reason, to impress a beautiful woman.
I have to take issue with you. I'm almost embarrassed to tell you that I insist that you know that it wasn't just a woman, it was a woman named Mary.
Yes, David, a beautiful woman named Mary indeed. I will decide how much of it is edited out and how much is left in. It is, by the way, requiring incredible patience and fortitude for me, the Wraith, to stay in one position long enough for you, David Foster Wallace, to really see me and interface with me. Do not waste my energies. The question worth answering isn't about Mary Carr, or about the Wraith, or about the goddamn termite queen. It's about you. Is it possible to really truly know anything worth knowing about the character in your story named David Foster Wallace?
Excuse me, madam. Excuse me, madam. Excuse me, madam. Excuse me, madam. What say we go ahead and have a listen to the levels? Yeah, we need to have a listen to the levels. Madam, can I request sound, please? Anything at all? Thank you.
He liked that sort of dreaming music that had the rhythm of long things swinging. The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. Attractive paraplegic females seek same object. Like most marriages, theirs was the evolved product of concordance and compromise. Concordance and compromise. And lo, for the earth was empty of form and void, and darkness was all over the face of the deep. And we said, look at that fucker dance. And we said, look at that fucker dance.
It is 60 minutes more or less with Madam Psychosis on YYY 109, largest full prime on the FM band. We like to keep it 60 minutes more or less with Madam Psychosis. If you're into that sort of thing, go ahead and stick around.
Obesity. Obesity with hypogonadism. Also morbid obesity. Nodular leprosy with Leonin phase. The acromegalic and hyperkeratocystic, the enuretic this year of all years, the spasmodically torticolic, those with saddle noses, those with atrophic limbs, and yes, chemists and pure math majors, also those with atrophic necks. Sclerodema adultorum, them that seep, the serodermatotic. Come one, come all, this circular says. The hydrocephalic, the tubescent and cachectic and anorexic. The Bragg's diseased in their heavy red rinds of flesh, the dermally wine-stained or carbuncular or steatocryptotic or, God forbid, all three. Marinomat syndrome, you say? Come on down. The psoriatic, the eczematically shunned and the scrofulodermic, bell-shaped steatopediacs in your special slacks, afflictees of pityriasis rosea. It says here, come all ye hateful, blessed are the poor in body, for they.
Tad says she was like some smooth, blank, perfect piece of pseudo art that you want to buy so you can take it home and smell it as it burns. Silverglade calls them the inward bound. The smug naivete, the condescension, and the quote, compassion they feel for those quote unquote trapped or imprisoned in the orthodox American lifestyle choices, so on and so forth. I have no choice but to be brutally candid about. I have no choice but to be brutally candid. I have no choice but to be brutally candid, rather than observe the pseudo-sensitive niceties of euphemism about the way a reasonably experienced, educated man is going to view an incredibly attractive woman whose life philosophy is fluffy, unconsidered, and, let's face it, when you come right down to it, kind of contemptible. The way you can tell from the outset that there will be the requisite enthusiasm for the rainforest and spotted owl. The way you can tell from the outset that there will be the requisite enthusiasm for the rainforest and spotted owl, creative meditation, feel-based psychology, macrobiosis. Creative meditation, feel-based psychology, macrobiosis. Rabid distrust of what they consider authority, without evidently once considering the rigid authoritarianism implicit in the rigid uniformity of their own quote-unquote non-conformist uniform vocabulary, attitudes, fluffiness, or daffiness, or intellectual flaccidity, or somehow smug-seeming naivete. Choose whichever offends you least. Choose whichever offends you least. classified her as a strictly one-night objective, but my interest in her was almost entirely due to the fact that she was pretty, sexually attractive, sexy. It was her body that attracted me. Her face was strange. Not homely, but eccentric. Tad's assessment was that she looked like a very sexy duck. Tad's assessment was that she looked like a really sexy duck. Nevertheless, no load to the charge that I spotted her on a blanket at the concert, and that I sauntered carnivorously over with an overtly one-night objective, and having had prior dealings with the granola cruncher Venus prior to this, that my one-night proviso was due mostly to the grim unimaginability of having to talk to a New Age brigadier for more than one night. Whether or not you approve, I think we can assume that you understand.
Madam, I just wanted to let you know the whole range of auditory levels is sounding fine. Auditory levels coming through just fine. And we're just about done with the contractually obligated 5 minutes of dead air which precedes your show. Just wanted to let you know that.
And so what about the rumors of infinite jest? The fatal entertainment is best understood as some kind of maternal instantiation of the archetypal figure Death, sitting naked, corporeally gorgeous, ravishing, hugely pregnant, her hideously deformed face either veiled or blanked out by undulating computer-generated squares of color, or anamorphosized into unrecognizability as any kind of face by the camera's apparently very strange and novel lens, sitting there nude, explaining in very simple childlike language to whomever the film's camera represents that Death is always female, and that the female is always maternal, i.e., that the woman who kills you is always your next life's mother. This is why mothers were so obsessively, consumingly, drivenly, and yet somehow narcissistically loving of you, their kid. The mothers are trying frantically to make amends for a murder neither of you quite remember. I will never mention the fate or present disposition of the unreleased cartridge entitled either Infinite Jest 5 or Infinite Jest 6, and will describe it only from the perspective of the experience of performing in it nude, and have never seen it, but have a hard time believing it was even entertaining, let alone lethally entertaining, and tend to believe it represents little more than the thinly veiled cries of a man at the very terminus of his existential tether. James O. Incadenza would in all probability have destroyed the master print of the failed piece of art, the same way he reportedly destroyed the first 4 or 5 failed attempts at the same piece, which pieces had admittedly featured actresses of lesser mystique and allure.
Grim realities as the thoughts go marching along 1 million by 1 million. And a possible explanation has been found for your correspondent's current predicament. It might be that we are but the lone inhabitants of a commercial diving bell, which has been decommissioned or otherwise summarily cut loose from the series of vital tubes which connects it to its mothership. A series of tubes known, tellingly, I think, as the umbilical cord in any commercial diving bell operation. This would both explain your correspondent's current inability to function on an intellectual level, and also further the awfulness of the realization that the same inability to function is probably attributable to a well-known phenomenon called the diver's reflex. The tendency of mammals to shut down all but the most basic essential functions in the face of extreme cold and isolation. A sort of deep survival mode built into the genetics. The thoughts go marching along, and the only thing your correspondent can think of is something he heard attributed to a French Foreign Legion officer. When asked how things were going, the man looked up, lit a cigarette, and said, "The ship is sinking quite normally."
The termite queen stretches off her own wings and she descends beneath the earth. She will never be seen again except by the hordes of gorgeous babies which she will birth from the pulsating corpus of glistening, translucent, nutritious mucus, which she will begin to amass and writhe upon her body. All of this drama will be played out underneath the auspice of the warm and comfortable earth. Millions of lives will erupt from the new termite queen. Millions of babies will love their mother, cleaning her, feeding her, tending to her every baby-producing need. The love the termite queen has for her many babies will fill the area of the earth delimited by the termite queen's intumescent body. Will fill the area of the earth delimited by the termite queen's intumescent body.
I'm going to get up and leave. Not to mention, to render your own sense of indignation and distaste complete, I'm sure, that extremely off-the-charts pretty women of almost any type seem to have, from my experience, tend all to have this obsession with the idea of respect, and will do almost anything, anywhere, for any fellow who affords them a sense of feeling deeply and profoundly respected. Not to mention, from a sense of feeling deeply and profoundly respected. I'm going to get up and leave. I doubt I need to point out that this is a particular female variant of the psychological need to feel that others take you as seriously as you take yourself. There's nothing wrong with this as far as psychological needs go, but yet of course we should remember that any deep need from other people will render us easy pickings. Yet of course we should remember that any deep need from other people will render us easy pickings. I can tell by your expression what you think of brutal candor. Yet I did not fall in love with her until she related the story of the unbelievably horrifying incident Passe held captive and very nearly killed. Let me explain. I can explain. Let me explain. I'm aware of how it might sound. I can explain. In bed together, in response to some prompt or association, she related an anecdote about hitchhiking and being picked up by what turned out to be a psychotic serial sex offender. He then drove her to a secluded area and raped her, and almost surely would have murdered her, had she not been able to effectively think on her feet under what must have been extraordinary fear and stress. irregardless of whatever I thought of the quality and substance of the thinking that allowed her to induce him and let her live. Happy now? All born out? Be happy. Happy now? All born out? Be happy. I don't care. I don't care. I knew she could. I knew I loved. End of story. I don't care. I knew she could. I knew I loved. End of story. Refill time. A refill. A refill. It's refill time, yes? I'm gonna get up and leave.
Self-erasure, literally the negating of the self through ingestion of substance, capital S, the ingestion of spirits, which it turns out I can claim in diluted hindsight had been all that was keeping the man's tether raveled, the ingestion, such that without it he was unable to withstand the psychic pressures that pushed him over the edge. Tuesday has absolutely no feeling, and so there are no convincing reasons why I should not read a poem written by Baraka, preface to a 20-volume suicide note. Lately, I've become accustomed to the way the ground opens up and envelops me each time I go out to walk the dog, or the broad-edged, silly music the wind makes when I run for a bus. Things have come to that. And now, each night I count the stars, and each night I get the same number. And when they will not come to be counted, I count the holes they leave. Nobody sings anymore. And then last night I tiptoed up to my daughter's room and I heard her talking to someone. And when I opened the door, there was no one there, only she on her knees, peeking into her own clasped hands. We came here to discuss American football players as prime candidates for admission into the UHID. Concussions masquerading as simple candy cane conundrums. UHID, the union of the hideously and improbably deformed, wherein dreams turned out not to be unreal. After all, we should talk about what happened to me. It would have said in the news. The, by all reports, exceptionally attractive Madam Psychosis had suffered an irreparable facial trauma on the same Thanksgiving day that her mother had killed herself with a kitchen appliance, leaving her, Madam Psychosis, hideously and improbably deformed, and that her membership in the Union of the Hideously and Improbably Deformed's 13-step self-help organization was no kind of metaphor or ruse. I love you. Me neither. That's what my mother said as she looked at me and died.
Sweeping the present to the infinite future, the termite queen will not feel a thing when the babies which were birthing from her stop being birthed. Sweeping the present to the infinite future, the termite queen will not feel a thing when the babies which were birthing from her stop being birthed. The babies who were already born will not change their stance of devoted, selfless service to their mother they love. The termite queen will no longer continue to grow and enlarge, and though she will not understand what has happened in the way she understands her baby's love, she will hear the whisper of the blood. The blood will tell her that she has done the living and done it well. The blood will tell her that she has done the living and done it well. The blood will tell her that she has done the living and done it well. The blood will whisper to her that she has birthed a million wonderful, perfect, loving, devoted termite babies. The blood will whisper in her ear the name of the lone daughter, which she has made without even knowing she has done it. The last thing the termite queen will hear whispered by the blood is the reason for love. Is the reason for love. Is the reason for love. All of them will do their part. The termite queen herself will die. Her babies will continue to dote on her even after she is dead. The beautiful babies too must die here with their mother, the great and powerful and good termite queen. The babies will continue to dote on her even after she has died, eventually destroying for final consumption the glistening, translucent, beautiful, love-engorged carcass of the great termite queen. The newest termite queen. She gets to landing and she starts to scratch her own wings off. The newest termite queen. She gets to landing and she starts to scratch her own wings off.
It would not be entirely unbelievable to find you sleeping just now.
Let me tell you something. The word wraith is partially defined as an insubstantial form or semblance. You can even go all the way, and you can define a wraith as a barely visible gaseous column. And yet you yourself are a wraith who is loud, an increasingly obnoxious wraith. A wraith.
I too am but a thing, David Foster Wallace. All things have form, even fictional characters. Even you, even I, even here, even now, even so far removed and at a safe distance from the afters.
You're gonna have to help me out with this one. What are the afters?
Yes, the afters, indeed. The afters which came of your suicide as a sort of present. A sort of present from David Foster Wallace to David Foster Wallace. Yes. A present from you to you and only you. Obviously, it was only ever intended to be received as a present by you yourself. Because who else could it have been intended as a present for, really? After your death, there was the shocking reality of you having hung yourself with your belt until you yourself died, and your funeral. All of the sobbing and tormented wondering and introspection your heartbroken family and friends did.
The afters being then, what happens after all of that stuff is over?
Yes, indeed. With apologies for my inability to describe these things without recourse to pat phrases and platitudes like heartbroken family and friends and tormented wondering, I must admit I do not possess anything near your impressive quantity of David Foster Wallace-ness.
I hear you saying all of these things to me, and what they describe is real. Yes, is that what you would have me say? Yes, I did the thing you do with the belt. Yes, I was waiting for my wife to be gone for 2 hours, and I had been lying to her. And I went outside on our back porch, and I wrapped my belt around my neck. Yes, yes, yes. There it is. We've had it out. We both said about things which are important to us. And this is us floating along on a river of understanding together. We must be feeling better now.
I would not say anyone is feeling much better now. Please, David, I beg you, forgive me my inability to understand. Is there a way in which that you would describe your suicide as a gift for anyone besides yourself. If I have missed some crucial point which clarifies and demystifies, please do tell.
What goes on inside is just too vast and huge and all interconnected for words to do more than barely sketch the outlines of at most one tiny little part of it at any given instant. The depressed person was in terrible and unceasing emotional pain, and the impossibility of sharing or articulating this pain was itself a component of the pain and a contributing factor to its essential horror.
Yes, the thoughts go marching a million by a million. Also, the matter of having had deployed the following medications in an attempt to help the depressed person find some relief from his acute affective discomfort and progress in his, i.e. the depressed person's journey toward enjoying some semblance of a normal adult life. Nardil, Paxil, Zoloft, Prozac, Tofranil, Wellbutrin, Elavil, Nardil, Metrazol in combination with unilateral ECT, Parnate, both with and without lithium salts, further rounds of Nardil, both with and without Xanax. None had delivered any significant relief from the pain and feelings of emotional isolation that rendered the depressed person's every waking hour an indescribable hell on earth. And many of the medications themselves had side effects which the depressed person had found intolerable.
The internal head speed, or whatever, of these thoughts, ideas, realizations, and emotions is faster, by the way. It's exponentially faster. It's unimaginably faster when you're dying, which is to say, between that vanishingly tiny nanosecond when you technically die and when the next thing happens.
About the temporal experience of death, I cannot know. It is true that I am not saying anything at all. By way of illustration, consider phenomena like intuition, or inspiration, or hunches. Or when someone, for instance, says, a little voice inside was telling them such and such on an intuitive basis. Wraiths like myself preferring ordinarily to whiz around at the invisible speed of quanta, and it doesn't really matter whether anyone at all knows what the term quanta means. Quanta shall remain.
About quanta, my friend, you and I were going to have to play it by ear.
Just now when you were saying what you said, did you mean to say play it by ear? I believe the expression is play it by ear, quote unquote.
I'm going to have to take your word for it, by ear.
Yes, right, indeed. By ear is the saying. A year, after all, is a very long time for human beings.
Is it? Is a year a long time? You, my friend, are but a fictional wraith. No offense, and not to even broach the entire human/non-human sentience debate. But just to say that it's clear that you and I are bound to have different experiential expectations, let's say, of what time is and how it feels, and absolutely what time adds up to in the end.
Consider that a year holds 31 million seconds. You tell me, David. You yourself had 46 years. When you were alive, or not dead, or animate, or whatever, did you feel your years were long? Did you agree with those who said life is too short? Or did you favor those dead souls who said life was too long?
I don't know if I even remember whether individual years felt long. only that the emotional pace seemed to accelerate year by year, each year feeling shorter than the last. Also, the rate of acceleration increasing, so that each year felt progressively shorter than the year had before it. One day, you wake up and you think, this is life, and it's happening to me.
And what do you say now? Now that you are not alive, dead, or whatever this is. And let me tell you now that I don't know what this situation is any more than you do.
You are saying that you could not possibly know if I don't.
Let us just agree to agree on that. Now that you are here, or at the very least not there, in the sense of being alive and on Earth and a writer known as David Foster Wallace. Now that all of those things have been transcended, now that you are dead, totally mute and inert and passive, all of a sudden everybody seems to view you as a sympathetic ear.
Not even a sympathetic real ear, more like a wooden carving or a statue of an ear. An empty confessional booth. This is David Foster Wallace as empty confessional booth. My whole life phenomenon. It's more like being a white cap on the surface of the ocean. Which is to say, that when you're up there and out as a white cap, you may think and look and talk and act, and you may even know that you're just a white cap on the surface of the ocean. But until you start subsiding and slipping back in, deep down, you don't really think that there's an ocean at all.
I have a truly horrible dream, which invariably occurs on the nights I am alone in my bed.
You are attempting to stimulate the clitoris of Queen Victoria with the back of a tortoiseshell hairbrush.
Her voluminous skirts swirl around her waist and my head. Her enormous cottage cheese thighs rest heavy on my shoulders, spill out in front of my sweating face.
The clanking of pounds and pounds of jewelry can be heard as she shifts her weight to offer herself at best advantage.
There are odors. The Queen's impatient breathing is thunder above me as I kneel at the throne. Time passes.
Finally, her voice is heard overhead, meddled with disgust and frustration. "We are not aroused," she says.
I am punched in the arm by a guard and flung into a pit, at the bottom of which boil the figures of countless mice. I awake with a mouthful of fur.
Begging for more time and a ribbed brush.
Friedhofene Schnätze serven jasel Sherry. Jag ska nog nicht für das Jahr verloren.